Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Gurudev, and all glories to Vaishnava devotees. We thank you for being here today. We have His Grace, Sri SALIKA Prabhu, who will be speaking to us today from the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. So, Great SALIKA Prabhu, if you're ready, we'll put the verse on the screen and you may start speaking, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, yes, we can go ahead.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Very well.
Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Narachaivam Narottamam. Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tatujaya Mudiraye. Nasta Apraishu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttam Sloki Bhakti Bhagavati Naistiki. Reading from SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, 2nd Canto, Chapter 6. This evening we're reading from text number 23, titled The Cosmic Manifestation. And the Sanskrit text reads thus. Yadasya nabhyam nalena aham asam atmanam navidam yajna sambaram purushavayavan rite. Yadasya nabhyam nalena aham asam mahatmanam navidam yajnas sanibaram purushavayavan rite. Yadaswanabhyana alina aham asam mahatmana navidam yajna sambuvaram purushavayavan rite. word for word translation. Yada at the time of, as Yaha is, Nabiat from the abdomen, Naalina from the lotus flower, Aham myself, as Aham took birth, my birth, Ma'atmanaha of the great person, Na Avidaham did not know, Yagnaha sacrificial, Samburahan ingredients, Purushaha of the Lord, Avayavam personal bodily limbs, Ritehe except. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Labai Charanaravinda. Says AC Bhakti Vedanta Swami Patita Pavan Jagal Guru Sibha Dvashila Prabhupada. When I was born from the abdominal lotus flower of the Lord Mahavishnu, the great person, I had no ingredients for sacrificial performances except the bodily limbs of the great personality of Godhead. Purport by the Divine Grace Prabhupada. Lord Brahma, the creator of the cosmic manifestation, is known as Swayambhu, or one who is born without father and mother. The general process is that a living creation is born out of the sex combination of the male father and the female mother. But Brahma, the firstborn living being, is born out of the abdominal lotus flower of the Mahavishnu, plenary expansion of Lord Krishna. The abdominal lotus flower is part of the Lord's bodily limbs, and Brahma is born out of the lotus flower. Therefore, Lord Brahma is also a part of the Lord's body. Brahma, after his appearance in the gigantic hollow of the universe, saw darkness and nothing else. He felt perplexity, and from his heart, he was inspired by the Lord to undergo austerity, thereby acquiring the ingredients for sacrificial performances. But there was nothing besides the two of them, namely the personality of Mahavishnu and Brahma himself, born of the bodily parts of the Lord. For sacrificial performances, many ingredients were in need, especially animals. The animal sacrifice is never meant for killing the animal, but for achieving the successful result of the sacrifice. The animal offered in the sacrificial fire is, so to speak, destroyed. But the next moment, it is given a new life by dint of the Vedic hymns chanted by the expert priest. When such an expert priest is not available, the animal sacrifice in the fire of the sacrificial altar is forbidden. Thus, Brahma created even the sacrificial ingredients out of the bodily limbs of the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, which means that the cosmic order was created by Brahma himself. Also, nothing is created out of nothing, but everything is created from the person of the Lord. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita 10:8, Aham sarvasya prabhava mata sarva prabhatate. Everything is made from my bodily limbs, and I am therefore the original source of all creations. The impersonalists argue that there is no use in worshiping the Lord when everything is nothing but the Lord himself. The personalists, however, worship the Lord out of a great sense of gratitude, utilizing the ingredients born out of the bodily limbs of the Lord. The fruits and flowers are available from the body of the earth. And yet, Mother Earth is worshipped by the sensible devotee with ingredients born from the earth. Similarly, Mother Ganges is worshipped by the water of the Ganges, and yet the worshippers enjoy the result of such worship. Worship of the Lord is also performed by the ingredients born from the bodily limbs of the Lord. And yet the worshipper, who is himself a part of the Lord, achieves the result of devotion or service to the Lord. While the impersonalist wrongly concludes that he is the Lord himself, the personalist, out of a great gratitude, worships the Lord in devotion or service, knowing perfectly well that nothing is different from the Lord. The devotee therefore endeavors to apply everything in the service of the Lord because he knows that everything is the property of the Lord and that no one can claim anything as one's own. This perfect conception of oneness helps the worshippers in being engaged in his loving service, whereas the impersonalist, being falsely puffed up, remains a non-devotee forever without being recognized by the Lord. Om Jnanam Timirandasya Jnanam Shalakaya Chakshum Ishtam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swam Padantikam Vandeyam Sri Guru Sri Yukta Pada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Syaha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganam Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvitam Savadutam Parijanam Saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Par Sahaganam Lalita Sri Vishaka Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Daganeshwari Shabanu Shite Nanaman Hari Mukha Karoti Vachalam Pangam Lagayate Girim Yakripat Vande Sri Guru Dinatarina Vancha Karpa Taru Vyascha Kripa Sundubhya Sevascha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shumyavadi Vasatyade Satarine Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Teta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Krishna Pada Prabhupada Asistatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Teti Namine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srinivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Yadasya Nabhyam Nalina Aham Asamma Umana Navidam Yajna Sambhuram Purusha Vayava Arite When I was born from the abdominal lotus flower of the Lord, Mahavishnu, the great person, I had no ingredient for sacrificial performance except the bodily limbs of the great personality of God. Hare Krishna. So thank you, devotees, for joining today's SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on our location. We thank you for taking this auspicious moment of the day, because the hearing of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM is said to be the light that removes the darkness in this dense age of Kali and in the life of those who are born in this dark, dense age of Kali Yuga. So every opportunity to hear, to speak, to meditate on SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM is a most wonderful opportunity, because it directs the soul to the rightful path for which he has taken his birth on this Jagat. So before I try to speak on the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of God, Narayan, to Narayan Narayan Rishi, the most human being, unto Srila Vyasadeva, unto all the Vaishnava Acharyas, predecessors, who has made it possible by their mercy for us to come to this part of Bhakti. I offer my respectful obeisances to all the devotees who are assembled here, who by their mercy, we have the opportunity to render service of speaking on the most exhausted topic in human discussion, which is the topic about the Supreme Personality of God. So I beg at the dust of your lotus feet that whatever I speak today may be as inspired by the Super Soul, who is the Paramahatma in the heart of all living entities, so that at the end it will be beneficial to all of those who listen, and it will be purifying for myself in my journey towards going back to Godhead. So today we're discussing second canto of SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM chapter 6, text number 23. And the title is Cosmic Manifestation. And I want to approach this discussion in the most elementary way, for the reason that the subject matter about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, especially when it comes to the manifestation of the Lord, which is the topic of this chapter, it is a subject matter that requires one to go down to the earth to be able to comprehend it. And that is the message that is being spoken in this verse that we are reading here. But Brahma is speaking to Narada Muni, and he's explaining his position. And because Narada Muni knows that the foundational requirements, the most foundational requirements for anyone who is a sadhaka, or one who is on the path of spiritual life, is to come to this realization. And what is that realization? To come to the understanding of the verse Srila Prabhupada quoted in the purport. Aham sarvasya prabhava mata sarva prabhatate iti macho bhajante mam vidbhava samavita. That to come to that ultimate realization that Krishna is the ultimate, is the beginning, the middle, the end of everything. In the material world, there are so many unlimited philosophers who speaks about God, who hears about God, who writes about the Supreme. And they all have different perceptions at different levels, depending on where they are. The question is then, why is there a different opinion, different perception, different understanding, different presentation of the same subject matter, the Supreme Personality of Godhead? That is the most fundamental point that we need to speak about in this discussion today. Because that is what Lord Brahma is trying to impress upon Narada Muni. When we look back at the beginning of this conversation, Narada Muni asked a question. And Lord Brahma would have just in a sentence tell him no. But he wants to impress upon Narada Muni and all of the readers of SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. Most interestingly, when you ask even those who are on the path of Bhakti to speak on this same verse, you will hear unlimited differential opinion or presentation of the same verse. But what is the primary reason why it happens that way? That is what we're going to be speaking about today. That factor that brings about different opinion, different understanding, different perception, different realization of the same subject matter is what we're going to be talking about. And maybe before going into that particular fundamental basis, maybe I should ask a question. Does anyone here know what is that fundamental basis that makes the difference in different philosophers, different speakers, different devotees speaking about the same subject matter, and even those who are non-devotees? If anyone has an idea, you can raise up his hand or just unmute himself and share. Before I go ahead and... Yes, Rasavan Prabhu.
Prabhuji, I don't know, but permit me to just speculate something. Okay. I think that comes from the inconceivability of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as it
Thank
is.
You. Thank you very much, Rasavan Prabhu, for trying. That's very good. That's one of it. Any other person wants to share? Okay, I'll go forward. If no one wants. Thank you very much, Rasavan Prabhu, for responding. The whole of the different perception that we hear, that we see, that we experience, that we express even ourselves is founded on only one factor. And that is the foundation of all endeavor, whether it is spiritual, whether it is material, whether anything at all in existence. And that is faith. And that is why, interestingly, when the 9 stages of Bhakti is given, the word Shraddha is enshrined as the beginning foundation. It is the faith that individual has that makes him. Here we hear the Brahma is speaking to Narada Muni. But Narada Muni accepting what Brahma is speaking here is founded on his level of faith. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, he told Arjuna an interesting subject matter. In chapter 17, verse number 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna said, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Trivida Bhava Saada Dei Namsa Swabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Chaiva Tamasi Cheti Tam Shrinu. Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna, hear from me. The Supreme Personality of God is saying, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of 3 kinds: in goodness, passion, or ignorance. But before that, in chapter 4, text number 40, he has said something earlier to Arjuna, that Agnas Chasra Danas Cha Samsaya Mavinasyati Nayamdo Kosti Na Paro Na Sukam Samsayatmana. But ignorant and faithless person who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the world to come or in the next. Thank you very much. So this is the foundation of everything. When we talked about the cosmic manifestation, there's an intriguing statement from the foundation of the text we're reading today. Lord Brahma is saying, I was born from the abdominal lotus flower of the Lord. And Prabhupada started the purport by explaining, Lord Brahma, the creator of the cosmic manifestation, is known as Swayambhu, or one who is born without father and mother. This is the first point Prabhupada made. And now, if you want to see how powerful the work of faith can make a difference, put this opinion poll on Google or in the internet public space and ask people to give their opinion on this one statement, that a personality was given birth to the beginning of the creation, man's firstborn, as described in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, was born from no father, no mother. Prabhupada explained in that purport that generally the understanding for the conditioned soul in the material world is that for a person to be born, for a living entity to be born into this existence, there must be a father, there must be a mother. But here, the Brahma is saying, I, Brahma, was not born by the coming together of a mother and a father. The Brahma is saying, I was born from the abdominal lotus flower. That is the birthplace of myself. So how do one understand? How do one comprehend? How do one accept this fact? And we might say that, oh, the devotees understand this. But to what degree do we understand that? This is reflected in our day-to-day devotional life. As a devotee, we see that we act differently in a particular kind of ways. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, he said, those who are Atmaram, they have a particular way in which they live. Because in the sister Pragya verses of the chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna has told Arjuna from text number 50 forward. Lord Krishna has told Arjuna, based on Arjuna's question, you are describing a kind of a person's. Tell me, what is their symptoms? How do they talk? How do they walk? So why is it that even at the platform of bhakti, thank you, Arjuna said, oh Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is merged in transcendence? How does he speak? What is his language? And how does he sit? And how does he walk? Then Krishna started explaining all of that. So there is a trait. So now, when we come to devotional service, when we say we are all devotees, so why is it that we are not in the same consciousness? Why is it that we are explaining the same subject matter differently? This is reflected on the different levels of faith that we all have acquired. When we talked about bhakti and the systemic growth in devotional life, from Shraddha to Bhajana Kriya to Ananta Nirvriti, going forward to Nishta, and going forward to go to Prema. When we look at all of this, it is very easy that we always, oftentimes, we see that devotees often wants to identify with Bhajana Kriya, Ananta Nirvriti, or Nishta, or any of these above. But the reality is that the most foundational basis of development of devotional service is not there. And unless that is there, Bhajana Kriya is not possible. Like Rupa Goswami have told us that when one do Bhajana Kriya, tears will start flowing from his eyes. That is the symptoms of one who is chanting. So to chant, one must first develop the first foundational principle or quality, and that is strata. Because if the strata or the faith is at the same level, then it becomes easier for the living entity to be able to see, to realize, to understand, and to act on the level. So this reflects that our faith is different. The famous story of the cobbler and the wise one, or Brahmana, depicts a very interesting subject matter here. The Brahmana asks Narad Muni, "You're going to Bhagwan, let me know. When you come back, what time is left for me to go back to him?" The cobbler asked the same question. And when Lord Narayan, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he told Narada himself became confused. He said, how is this possible? That a wise Brahmana, who is expert in reciting the Vedic scriptures, how is it that it would take hundreds of years for him to come back to you? Well, you're talking of a cobbler. Because realization of God is not based on recitations of mantras. It's not based on erudicity of the verses of the scriptures. It's not based on expertness in chanting the Vedic hymns. It's rooted in the faith. When Narada Muni came back, the Brahmana said, "You must be joking. How can you make this kind of a humorous joke? We know that you, Narada, you're very humorous. You always like to make jokes, but don't make this joke. How can Bhagavan say that me, to take me this number of years?" But when the cobbler heard the same statement, that the Lord was passing the camel through the eye of a needle, it went into bliss. That is the work of faith. The scriptures have revealed there is no need for researching. All the statement about the Supreme Personality of God is revealed in the scriptures. Krishna is so magnanimous that he understands our situation in the conditional life, and he has made everything that is required available. Now, why is it that we are not becoming self-liberated in a moment, like Prabhupada said? Srila Prabhupada said, when he asked a question, how long does it take to become perfected? Prabhupada said, in a minute, in a second. Why is it not happening? Because the level of faith is not there. There's a nice story of Prahlad Maharaj. When Prahlad Maharaj's father, Hiranyakasipu, was going to kill him, he was devising so many means. He should be thrown from the cliff. Prahlad did not stress. He was not worried. Why? Because Prahlad, he knows, he has that faith that by myself, nothing I can do. Narayan is there. He will save me. He would never struggle. And because of that level of his faith, when he was thrown from the cliff, Narayan was forced to leave his abode and come and receive Prahlad Maharaj. When the father mixed poison, the mother fainted because she can't comprehend seeing his beloved son dying of consuming poison. And Prahlad took the poison and joyfully he took the poison, nothing happened. That is faith. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada goes further. In the first paragraph, he concluded by explaining Prabhupada went a little bit into the ingredients of sacrifice. But before that, there is something interesting Prabhupada mentioned. When Brahma was giving birth, the word used by Prabhupada is that it was completely, Prabhupada used a particular adjective there to qualify his state of consciousness. Prabhupada said that Lord Brahma, was perplexed. It was in a perplexity, in the state of perplexity. That's the word. Brahma was in a state of perplexity. And that is the nature of every living entity in the material world. We are all in a perplexed, conditional state of life. Because we are all born in ignorance. Lord Brahma was not exceptional. Whatever that we want to experience is already available, because every ingredient of creation was already present in the body of the Lord. But Lord Brahma could not access it. He was completely perplexed. And something very interesting was mentioned there. In that state of perplexity, Lord Brahma did something very instructive. He looked inwardly. Most of the devotees, when we listen to the scriptures, when we listen to the speakers, when we read the scriptures, most oftentimes what debars us, what blocks our realization is that with our material intelligence, we want to understand this subject matter. But that is not going to happen. For one to understand this deeper aspect of God's manifestation, his cosmic creation, and all of his activities, one has to go inward. That was what Lord Brahma did. When we hear our intention to understand it, our strive to try to understand the scriptures is what blocks our intention. It is what blocks our realization, because we're trying. And because we're trying to understand, and that is what led to the perplexity of the impersonalists. The impersonalists are perplexed. Why? Because they want to understand everything, like the modern day scientists, by their limited senses that is not in their control. Every entity is controlled. Only Krishna, only him is not under control, because he's the controller. That is what Lord Brahma realized after going inwardly. He pronounced Ishwara Paraman Krishna Sakchidananda Priga Adi Govinda Sarva Karana. You are the origin of all origin. But he never realizes that, because until when he went inside. And when we listen to the inner voice of the Lord, which is present in each and every one of us, there is no entity that is alone. Every living entity is accompanied by the manifestation of Lord Krishna in the form of Paramatma. And just like he's speaking to Lord Brahma here from the earth, he is speaking to us on every second basis. But we are not hearing, because we're trying to use our intelligence. And the intelligence of the most intelligent person cannot access the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's not possible. One cannot develop faith, strong faith, understanding of God, unless it becomes preferred from the perplexity of the conditional life, which is born out of the three modes of material nature. One has to hear the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM from the heart. And that's why it is said in our Mangala Arti Samsara Dhavala prayer, we say, Yesya Prasada Habagawa Prasadu. Yesya Prasada Nagati Kutopi. When we hear the voice of the Lord inside, the most instrumental step in becoming a self-realized person is initiated. One has to get the spiritual master for him to be free from the dualities of conditional life. But one will never see the spiritual master. One will never hear the spiritual master. One will never come in contact with the spiritual master until he listens to the inner voice, because it has to come from Krishna. When that voice of Krishna comes into the heart, when we go inwardly and we hear that voice of Krishna, it is only at that moment, that we are able to, by the aid of Krishna, to come in contact with the bona fide representative of God. And when the bona fide representative of God speaks at that moment, then we become able to practice. We are able to engage in sacrifice. That is the next point Prabhupada was mentioning in the purport. That now, when we talked about devotional service, we are told the first stage is what? To develop strada. How do you develop strada? You have to perform austerity. And the austerity is what? Sravanam Kirtanam. But you cannot Sravanam and Kirtanam unless you develop faith. So that is, how do you then achieve it? So the Sharia has told us that to achieve this, one has to become meditative. One has to go back inwardly, like Lord Brahma did. Then clarity will see. In the Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, text number 19, Lord Krishna said very beautifully, what's the verse? I think, yes, Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, first, can you bring that verse? 15:19. Lord Krishna says something interesting to Arjuna. After declaring that I'm steady in each and everyone's heart,
Whoever knows me.
After that, then he came to text number 19. After text 15, he comes to 16, 17, 18. Then in the fourth verse after that, he says something interestingly beautiful.
Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without doubting.
Let's see the Sanskrit. That's what I was trying to remember. He said, Yomam eva asamudo janati purushotama sasarvavi bhajati maham sarvabhavena bharata. Asamudo. That is the word we wanted to use. Asamudo. Without doubt. Without doubt. So now let's go to this translation. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of God without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me. O son of Bharata, Asamudo, that is the word. One cannot understand the cosmic manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or any manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead unless it becomes free from doubt. And Prabhupada beautifully did justice relating to the text we are reading today in the purport. He said there are many philosophers speculating about the constitutional position of living entities and the supreme absolute truth. Now in this verse, the Supreme Personality of God clearly explained that anyone who knows Lord Krishna to be the Supreme Personality person is actually the knower of everything. That is one who knows. If one desires to understand the manifestation, the activities of the Lord, it has to come from knowing Krishna. And that cannot happen without the faith in the Supreme Personality of God. Now, before going to what it takes, I will be speaking on that. How do we develop that faith? I'll come back to that. Let's go back to the purport of today's text. Prabhupada goes further. He talks about the sacrifice. Prabhupada briefly mentioned about the sacrificial items, which are all limbs of the personality of Godhead. And he talks about the animal slaughter. Animal slaughter is coming as a result of what? Lack of knowledge of God. But one has to deeply go into those tradition and find out what was actually said. One cannot understand the process of sacrifice unless he goes to a bona fide representative of that God. That knowledge of the Supreme is what gave the impetus to understand. And Prabhupada says something here, which I wanted to, very interesting one, that animal sacrifice is not possible. That's what he said. When such an expert priest is not available, the animal sacrifice in the fire of sacrifice altar is forbidden. Very strong statement by Srila Prabhupada. It is completely forbidden. So those who, in other words, sacrificial, we have, even in Bhakti, in the process of devotional service, so many, because once we engage in sacrificial or ritualistic activities, and this is a very strong instruction from Srila Prabhupada, it is forbidden. The qualification is that one must have developed the ability to recite the mantra in the right pronunciation, in the right tonnage, in the right manner. Who has that in this age? So it is condemned, it is forbidden, it is forbidden for one who is in this body. It is not possible. So those who want to engage in sacrificial activities, that is what the Prabhupada did. Pancharatrika Vidi, the regulated form of sacrifice. So Prabhupada goes further in the next paragraph and they talk about the impersonalist. Prabhupada talk about the person. The impersonalists, they argue the reason why they do not worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead is based on that same verse we just read. Because they have no clarity, they have no knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They have no knowledge. And how can one who does not have knowledge, how can he speak authoritatively on the subject matter? And that is why, because they lack faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text number 40, has already condemned such personality. The impersonalists are condemned in that verse. Because why? Whatever they are is founded on the basis of what? Doubt that is arising as a result of the influence of the three modes of material nature. Krishna establishes that very nicely from chapter 3 going forward. 20 text 27, that we have Prakriti Kriya Manani, Kuna Kama, Samsa, Ahankara Vimudatmas, Katam Itimayate. It's a fool who thinks it's material modes of nature that is engaging the impersonalist. The question is, someone says, but then I don't have to believe, I don't have to have faith in the word of the scriptures of as Krishna being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So recently somebody was asking me a question. He said, you kept on talking about this Krishna. You've mentioned it several times in the course of our conversation. I don't believe that Krishna is God. How do you convince me that Krishna is God? And I started laughing. He said, no, it's not funny, because you seemingly have so much of confidence in this Krishna to be the supreme being. Can you prove to me how he is God? And I laughed again. I said, okay, answer to your question is very simple, one sentence. He said, please tell me. I said, can you prove to me that Krishna is not God? He kept silent for some time. He didn't know what to say. I said, if you are saying that Krishna is not God, based on what I'm saying, prove to me that Krishna is not God. Then from there, we'll be able to come to understanding, agreement. Because I'm saying Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. You're saying he's not. So show me how Krishna is not the Supreme Personality of God. He said, but then I don't know who is Krishna. I don't even know anything about him. I said, that is why you cannot say it's not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How can you claim that something you don't know about is not the reality? You don't know the truth, but you're doubting the truth. So the whole foundation of spiritual life is based on what? Strada. One has to just develop faith in God. And everything will become revealed to such a person. Prabhupada goes further in the purport, towards the end of the purport. And Prabhupada emphasized that how powerful the process of devotion and service is. Prabhupada said the perfect conception of oneness helps the worshipper in being engaged in his loving service, whereas the impersonalist, being falsely puffed up, remains a non-devotee forever without being recognized by the Lord. If we don't want to be in this situation, then we have to take this solution. What is that solution to develop faith? Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha. That is what formula Narada Muni developed. That is what brought Narada Muni to accept the statement of Lord Brahma here. When we look back at the life of Lord Narada Muni in his previous life, what did he do? In the beginning of SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, he has explained that to us. Time will not permit us to go to the references, but we all know the stories. He said, what? I was the son of a maid servant. He was not a scholar. He was not a PhD degree holder. He did not even have a good bed of comfort. He did not even have the opportunity to directly serve the spiritual master or the Vaishnavas. He simply rendered service. Listen to this great souls. And his whole life was transformed from that. Another example before I round up, Bharat was such a powerful personality. And when he fell down after developing attachment to the deer, how did he become liberated? In a deer's body, he would simply sit down near the hermitage of the sages, just hear Bhagavatam. So therefore, my dear God brothers and sisters, and whoever is listening, if we have any sincere intention in the part of devotional service, whether we understand the cosmic manifestation or we do not understand the cosmic manifestation, just come to Bhagavatam class. The Bhagavatam's reciter, Vyasadeva and Sukadev Goswami has blessed that just by listening, even one inattentively hear this kata of SRIMAD Bhagavatam, his life becomes a fortune. Hare Krishna. So I'll stop here so that we can reflect and share realizations together. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you for being here in this auspicious moment. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. His Grace SALIKA PRABHU. That was very powerful, fiery Srimad Bhagavatam discourse. Thank you so much. Dear devotees, if anyone has something to share, to speak about, please, you may use the hand emoji to unmute or use your physical hand to indicate you want to speak, and you'll be asked to unmute. Prabhu, you talked about faith, which is the fundamental basis of everything we see around, everything we do, not just about God realization. I remember one time a class our Gurudev gave, I think I wouldn't say once, maybe a couple times. I think he spoke like that once in Ghana, and I heard him speak like that in Gidanagri also. That we hear how Mother Kunti actually prayed to the Lord for calamities to be visited upon her. And Gurudev was saying that Mother Kunti could pray like that because she had been through so many situations, very difficult situations, where Krishna came, intervened, and protected her. So she had that faith. I mean, if I walk down on the street and somebody wants to attack my child has the faith in me that I'm going to give him protection. If the first time, second time, third time it happens, I do not give him protection, I doubt if my child will have faith in me that if there is such a situation, next time I'm going to protect him. So how does one develop faith in Krishna when after many attempts of praying to Krishna or praying to God, God does not seem to answer his prayers? How does one continue to have faith in God when all his prayers are not being answered by the Lord?
Very beautiful question, Sir. That's a very beautiful, intelligent one. And I'll answer from the key word you used. Someone has been praying to God. Which God? Because to pray to someone, you have to know the person. And if you don't know Krishna, how can you pray to him? And that is why the acharyas have told us that we should learn to pray by reading the prayers of the previous acharya, because our attempt to pray will just be either insulting the Lord or making offenses against the Lord. Because, for an example, a child who does not understand the tenacity or the understanding of his father, asking the father as a toddler or 2-year-old baby, asking the father to give him blade to play with, because he has not come to the level of his father. So how can he ask? So therefore, it is forbidden until when you know God. Don't try to ask questions from God. The first stage is that to try to know God. Then the question then will be, how do I then know God? If I have not known God and I'm trying to know God, Krishna gave us a solution in the Bhagavad Gita. Tisham saktakta yuktanam bhajatam priti puvakam dadami kuti yogam tam jenamam upayantite. Krishna is not like a mundane material father that has limited capacity. Krishna does not require us to pray to him as a sadhaka in our deluded conditional life. Actually, he who has the qualification to pray to the Lord is a Mahabhagwan, a pure devotee of the Lord. So therefore, the pure devotee who knows how to pray has given us the prayer that is meant for us in our stage of conditional life. Simply chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And if we ever want to say any prayer as of that, our prayer should simply be, Krishna, allow me to be able to chant Hare Krishna. And when we develop that sincere in our mind that Krishna, just give me that opportunity to chant your name once. Krishna says, I'm living in the art. What will I do? Tisham Ebahanum Kampatam, Aham Agyana Jantam. Nasami Atma Babasto, Gyana Dipena, Baswata. I'm dwelling in the region of the art. I'm seeing that sincerity that you want to chant my name. So I will give you the ability to be able to chant my name. The moment you chant the name of Krishna, just once name of Krishna, everything will become clear. Go back to the story of Dhruva Maharaj. When he was told, he thinks he has a desire to fulfill. And when the Lord manifests, Dhruva Maharaj was not chanting, "Give me the kingdom." Now the Muni didn't instruct him that. If Dhruva Maharaj had not followed the instructions of Narad Muni sincerely, our problem is that although we seem in Guru and Krishna, but we actually, by our activities, by our endeavor, by our talk, by our activities, we have no faith. Because the Guru has said that everything that one can think of is there in that Orina, Kintamani, is the name. Just chant this name. Until when you chant that name, don't chant any other thing. But we want to chant so many other things. It is not discouraged. Why? Because not everybody will be able to do that. And not inability to be able to do that is the reason why we will not get our prayers answered. But if one really wants to understand, if one really wants to have his prayers fulfilled, first, he should chant the name first. Because one just name of Krishna will remove all of the illusion that is present for billions and trillions of life. And once we chant that name just once, everything will become very clear. And that is why we're talking about faith. Because although seemingly we say, but we have faith in Krishna and Krishna consciousness. We have stayed here for 30 years. We have stayed here for 50 years. Do I pray asking Krishna, just allow me to be able to chant your holy name? Is that my prayer? And when we look at all of the acharyas, those who have become perfected, those who have achieved great realization of the Lord, they didn't pray for so many things. They simply prayed to Krishna, give me the opportunity to pray to you. There are so many examples in the scriptures. So, question is, how then do we continue to have faith when we continuously pray and we're not getting our prayers answered? It's just to take the austerity. Yes, it's a sacrifice. It's an austerity that we are suffering. We don't have money to eat. We don't even have money to take care of our kids. But we are being pressured to pray, Krishna, I need money. But we refuse. We are pressured to pray, but we did not pray for anything. Krishna. So this is the secret. This is the way to go. Just have faith. And that is what faith is all about. To develop that ability to be able to follow the instructions of the spiritual master. But until when we go there, there is no faith. I don't know whether it answers questions.
Well, thank you. Yeah, because as you were speaking, I remembered a statement Lord Jesus Christ once made in the Bible. I can't think of the text, but I know that in James, who happens to be a brother of Christ, also said something similar to what Christ said, that we complain, we pray to God and do not get our prayers answered because we do not know how to pray. Christ said that.
Yeah.
It's because we do not know how to pray. If we knew how to pray, our prayers will be answered. But in the same vein, God fulfills each and everyone's desires. So if even one does not know how to pray, and it is that person's desire, why is God not fulfilling it? Because the same Krishna says that He's in the heart of all living entities. From Him comes knowledge. If one wants to know about Him, He will help him. If one wants to forget about Him, He will help him also to forget about Him. So I'm wondering why, when it comes to prayers, we requesting something from the Lord, He does not play the same game with us. He does not fulfill our desires. Well, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. The thing is this, that it is very, very complex for one who is conditioned in the conditional life. The reality is that most often times when we say we are desiring to have the Lord, but how strong is that desire? Krishna listening to the loudest of our desire. Because when we pray, we have so many desires inherent in our heart as a result of the coverings that we have. So even though we say, Krishna, I want to chant your name, I want to chant your name, but that desire to have the money, to have the beautiful women, to have the beautiful facilities is there loud, shouting very loudly in the back of our mind while we are chanting the Hare Krishna. And that is where the problem lies. It's not that Krishna is not fulfilling the desire. There is no desire that Krishna never fulfills. But Krishna will listen to that loudest of our desires, and He will fulfill that, because that is what is prominent. Just like a child goes to the mother or to the father, and he said, Dad, Dad, but he turns his back to the father. He's shouting, Dad. When the dad eventually looks at him, he says, this child is playing. He's not meeting my attention, because he's not looking at the father. So when we say we desire the Lord, Krishna is not a human being that is not able to see to the minutest little desire that is in our heart. He has the ability to see to the core. And that which is most pronounced in our heart is what He listens to. And that is why the Acharyas have prayed that you see the lamentations of the Acharyas. Prabhupada was crying throughout his stay in the Radha Damodara temple. Prabhupada has studied. He has even written the Bhagavad Gita. But he's saying, Krishna, he's kept on crying, make me. And when he get to Boston, when he arrived, Krishna, make me dance. And because that was the loudest of Prabhupada's desire, Krishna fulfilled that. Dhruva Maharaj, we gave an example before. When Dhruva Maharaj, when he eventually met the Supreme Personality of the Lord, did what? He said, yes, because you have chanted my name, there is no loss or diminution in chanting the names of God. So even though we are chanting, and we are not chanting attentively, it does not mean that that chanting is not effective. It's just that it takes a longer time to get effective in our lives. Krishna is accumulating those chanting that we are chanting in namabas or in offenses until when it gets to that maturity, when it is enough, just like a person in a classroom. It requires, we're dealing with some drama in our country now of our fake documents. It is the most trending news in Nigeria of it. Somebody says, I've passed very excellently, and the requirement of the university is that you have 120 marks, and you have 105. He has tried, but he has not had the qualification. So Krishna knows when it is our desire becomes matured enough to give us his benediction. But whatever is contributed, and that is what Krishna told Arjuna in chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita, there's no loss of diminution on this part. It's accumulating. Eventually it will manifest, but it will take a longer time. But for it to act immediately as we are acting it, the desire for Krishna must be stronger than any other desires. Hare Krishna. Oh, that helps.
Yes, thank you so much. That helps a lot. So we go to His Grace Srimad Varaha Acharya Prabhu, please. You may unmute.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
My please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Prabhupada. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to the Assembly devotees. Salika Prabhu, thank you for the wonderful class. I have a question and a comment. The comment is the comment is about your I don't know if it's comment or question. Anyway, so you mentioned faith being the foundation, and but it looks like that faith comes by itself. Of course, you ended up saying that by sadhu sangha, but major part of your presentation, you were saying it's like that faith comes by itself. Faith in God or whatever it is has to come before one can engage in devotional service. So anyway, I don't get it very clear because Krishna mentioned different categories of people who come to him, and it's not based on knowledge of him, it's just faith in him as such, because they desire something. Those who are curious, they come. By curiosity, we say that is faith. But then Krishna says they come to me. They are curious, but they come to me. That's not yet faith. It's not faith, but they still come. So anyway, yes, it's true that faith is something. It is from hearing that we develop faith. Even if we associate with devotees, if you don't hear properly, like you rightly said, we've been around 30 years so, and still our faith is lacking. So we're not hearing properly. So anyway, so that's just the comment about how faith develops. Hearing is paramount. Hearing, Bible says the same thing. Faith, through faith, knowledge develops, something like that. Bible says the same thing. So anyway, so that's just by the side. Now, on Sahadeva Prabhu's question. Yeah, so anyway, please, that is the question. So you may clarify that. Now, this is my comment on Sahadeva Prabhu's question. It's a very, very interesting question he asked. If we're praying to God and we're not getting any answer, so how can we have faith? It's a very, very interesting question. There are many ways we can answer this question, but just one that comes to my mind quickly. The fact that there are many things God is doing in our lives that we do not even ask for, but we do not recognize that. There are many things that we do not consciously ask for that God is doing for us every day. So the example is given at a construction site. There is a supervisor up the building, and then he was throwing $20 bill to one of the workers down, but he hid himself and he was throwing $20 bill. And this worker would just pick it and put it in his pocket. So 2, 3 times, 4, 5 times, $20 bill, the guy picked it. He was not even looking up to see where it's coming from. He just picked it and put it in his pocket without letting people know that. Then the supervisor threw stone on his head, boom. And he cried, he said, who did that? He was looking, who? So this is what we are. We are picking so many blessings and graces that God is sending our ways every day. We are not saying how this thing come. We're not thanking him. We're not being grateful, no gratitude, nothing. So we become Oliver Twist. We're asking for more, but you're not even recognizing the one you're receiving. So this is where hearing comes. If somebody doesn't hear properly, he will not even know, like you rightly say, he will not know how to approach God. He will not know how to pray to God. So in the 9 processes of devotional service, prayer comes sixth. Prayer, no, 7th. Worship is 6th and prayer is 7th. So hearing is the first activity of devotion. You must hear. If you don't hear, you won't know how to pray. You won't know how to worship. and your attitude in praying and worship will be zero. You know, it will be of no quality. So hearing, it is the paramount thing to do in order to be able to understand God. Thank you for allowing me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, His Grace SRIMAD Prabhu. Prabhu has a very wonderful quality, which I'm trying to also emulate. Prabhu carefully listens to class, and that's a very powerful quality. Attentively, when others very high quality, even materially, and that is actually the key. So thank you very much, Prabhu, for constantly exhibiting hearing irrespective of whoever is speaking. It's a very good quality and praise.
It seems somebody is trying
now
to
speak to
your line is breaking up a little bit.
Oh, with network. Is it better now?
Yeah, you may go ahead, please. Yes. Okay,
thank you. So now speaking to the two, to the comment and the question, let me, as regards the comment, you are very perfectly right. And it is my emphasis, and that is where the question is said that you ask. It is intentional. While I was emphasizing on faith and faith as if it's just anything. And what I was trying to do is meditate. I was meditating on the verse of Bhagavad Gita, which I did not quote while I was speaking. In the Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, text number 62, Lord Krishna says, Dhyayato visayam pumsa sangas sanjayati karma kama krodo vijayate. Lord Krishna told Arjuna, so while contemplating on the object of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger develops. What I was taking out of that is, what I was trying to do in this class was use the word dhyayata, contemplation. I want to emphasize on the word of the faith. So there are so many correlatory verses that can emphasize on how to get the faith. But one never develops attraction for anything until when it registers in the mind. So I want the word faith, because that is where I'm focusing the class on. I want it to enshrine in our consciousness as we speak. So that's why I was trying to emphasize, because when we hear it over and over in the class, then it gives us a thought, and we want to start wondering, so how do we then get this faith? That is the purpose of my emphasis. But while doing that, just like you quote a case and different kinds of people comes to Krishna, I mentioned at the beginning of the class, I quoted the verse, Bhagavad Gita chapter 17, text number 2, where Krishna told Arjuna that Trivida Bhavati Srada, the hinam sa swabhavaja satwiki rajaseva tamasa sekita, that there are three kinds of faith: goodness, passion, and ignorance. The desire of wealth. They have some faith, but that faith is covered. And that's why I quoted that in the beginning of the verse, to emphasize that, yes, we understand that faith, because for anyone to come to God at all, he must be having some level of faith. But the faith that we are emphasizing here is the faith that is on the transcendental level. Not even in the, it's what I'm trying. Because of the lecture, we mentioned that, emphasizing that, yes, it is recognized, whether it's an inquisitive person, desire of wealth, is in search of knowledge, he has, it's a kind of faith, and Krishna himself acknowledges them. But the faith that we require, that will give us what Narada asked here in listening to, is what we're emphasizing on, and that will talk that faith, which is completely free from the influence of the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, that faith is what we need to have that realization that will take us from this material conscious level of engagement to the transcendental level. And it was only that we get to that transcendental faith that we can actually do bhakti, which is the goal of our being in Krishna consciousness. So that is the purpose of emphasizing that faith. So that faith was not just faith that is under the influence of the modes, but we're talking about faith that is actually on the transcendental kind of a faith. And that faith is what we need. And once we get that kind of a faith, which we have seen in the life of, like Sadi Prabhu said, the life of a personality like Kunti and the great devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, and all of those personalities that we referenced. This kind of faith is what we need in our devotional life to break through completely from this circle of conditional life, which is influenced by the three modes of material nature. Our devotional service, most often times now, especially for me, I know is still under the influence of the modes, because devotional service is not necessarily that everyone in devotional service is engaged in transcendental devotional, loving devotional service to the Lord. Devotional service could be in ignorance, devotional service could be in passion, devotional service could be in goodness. And some have been able to gradually elevate themselves to devotional service in goodness. Some are still in devotional service in passion. There are some devotees who are still engaging in devotional service in ignorance. And they are in devotional service. They are not outside of bhakti. They are doing bhakti, but their bhakti is covered by the influence of the lowest mode of ignorance. So those kind of bhakti is not what we need. Bhagavatam wants to take us to the transcendental level of strata, where we can get the real bhakti influence. That is what Bhagavatam stands for. Hare Krishna. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Narayani, are you still there? I saw your hand up. Are you still there? Oh, your question?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Okay, please go ahead. Oh, I love that question.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Hare Krishna, Salika. Prabhu, thank you for the wonderful lectures. What I wanted to say is a contribution about Sahadev Prabhu question that he asked. Sometimes when we pray to God and we want to ask God something, sometimes we don't. The reason why most of the time we don't get what we want. One, sometimes we don't have enough punya to get whatever we're asking for, and then another time too, whatever we're asking for is not good for us. So if it's not good for us, one, Krishna.
Narayani, what happened?
Maybe network.
No, she's still here, but you are muted, Narayani.
Yes, she was muted. Maybe some call came or something.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, network got
So that's how God is rewards us.
Thank you very much. You're perfectly right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for that contribution. Yes, our desires are most often times fulfilled, but we don't know that they are being fulfilled because we do not see it in the way we wanted it. That is the difference between us and the pure devotees. When the pure devotee sees things not happening the way they are, they go introspective. They try to understand Krishna. Is it as a result of not being in Krishna consciousness? Is it because there is something dangerous for me there? So to come to that level of realization when things seemingly are not going well, and we're still able to remain in consciousness, is what makes us a devotee with faith in transcendence. And that is what the status number 8 tells us. What is that? Tate Nukampam, what's that verse? Tate Nukampam, I think it's 10, 14, 8 or something like that. That is what it said. That one who remains in devotional life continuously engaging in Krishna consciousness, waiting upon the Lord, while accepting and taking all of the result of karma or activities of previous life that is upon him, still remain in devotional service. It's said that such a person, kingdom of God, is already his inheritance. Prabhupada Goswami quoted that in the Nectar of Devotion. So if we are able to remain steady, there are so many. There's a very close person to me. We're having conversation recently. It was paining me. Actually, initially, I was very pained because he was a very close person to me. I was feeling so much pained that he had to deviate. That person, I could see that he's deviated, and it was paining me very badly because I brought that person into devotional service. So it was paining me. In fact, I was almost taking him as an enemy because it was paining me badly that how could this person deviate? I brought you here, and don't you have faith in me? Then in the course of our conversation, one of our conversations, he said, if you are there, that you brought me, I can't see the reflection of success in your life. So how can I continue to be there? And I said, well, you may not seek success, but I can see success because you cannot see the success I'm seeing. But recently, I was doing some research to do some presentation somewhere, and I was reading, and I came to a realization that this person has taken in this lifetime the much, and that is what very instructive as a preacher to understand when Krishna, to understand Krishna's plan in the life of somebody. And how do you understand that? When we endeavor, continuously endeavor on something, and that thing in Krishna consciousness with all sincerity is not happening. If we are in good consciousness, we realize at that moment that is not what Krishna wants, and we will not get discouraged. So thank you very much for that beautiful contribution, Mother Narayani.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
See, as I look into today's life, today's world, and even our precious ISKCON is not exempted from this also. And let me put it this way. If I may put this verse on the screen. There is a verse here. Bhagavad Gita chapter 16,
1 to 3.
1 to 3. It talks about so many wonderful things here. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of all these things. And then in the purport, very beautiful purport, of course, as usual, and Prabhupada states something here. In the Varnashram institution, the sannyas, or the person in the renounced order of life, is considered to be the head or the spiritual master of all the social statuses. For a sannyasi, the first qualification should be fearlessness, because a sannyasi has to be alone without any support or guarantee of support. He has simply to depend on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one thinks, after I leave my connections, who will protect me, he should not accept the renounced order of life. One must be fully convinced that Krishna, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his localized aspect as Paramatma, is always within, that he is seeing everything and he always knows what one intends to do. Now, I made reference to this verse because it pertains to faith. The sannyasi is supposed to be the spiritual head of the other statuses, ashrams. Now, if someone is a sannyasi and is concerned, well, how am I going to survive? How am I going to live? Then where do we draw the sannyasis faith? And there are many sannyasis. I wouldn't say, sorry, I wouldn't say many, but there are some sannyasis who will not travel to certain places because they won't get what they're expecting. You know, maybe they're expecting some donation, they won't get it, so they won't go there. So if that is the case, then where do we draw the faith? I don't know, but it's just a question I'm getting in my crazy head.
Thank you very much, Adi Prabhu, for the question. And that you rightly said, like it's actually borders on faith. And there are sciences by saffron. They're just by ordination. There are sciences that because they wear a saffron cloth, they are called sciences. There are sometimes they're not even ordinated. There are sciences who are by ordination because they have been given ordination according to institutional arrangement. They have remained brahmachari for so many lives, so for so many years, and they are pushed. Prabhu, you have been a brahmachari for 20 years, 25 years. Take sciences. I had some conversation similar to that recently. Somebody was saying, Prabhu, you have been brahmachari for more than 30 years now. You should go and take sannyasi. So there are sannyasis by ordination, and there are sannyasis by consciousness. And what is desired is sannyasi by consciousness. And it is not something that comes artificially. So it is not surprising also that even in Satya Yuga, in Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga and Dwapara Yuga, we find sannyasis who are fake. For Sita to be deceived, what's his name now?
Ravana.
Ravana, thank you. Ravana had to dress like a sannyasi. So it's not a new concept. It is not new. It's not synonymous to only Kali Yuga. It is always there because the moment we come into there's a very beautiful verse in the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM 3rd canto. The moment we talk about this 1/4 of the manifestation of the law, which is covered by the 3 modes of material nature, there must be the reflection of all of this because that is the nature of this existence. So it is not surprising that they are there. What is surprising is that there are those who are able to accept that order in a full consciousness of what sannyasi is supposed to be. So like Prabhupada would say, living is not so wonderful, but staying. So it is not unnatural. It is expected. It is natural to, especially even in Kali Yuga. You were cautious by saying that not many. But yes, there are many. In fact, the greater percentage of sannyasis are not sannyasis in real terms of what sannyasis should be. In chapter 18, Lord Krishna, when he's concluding Bhagavad Gita in the first stages of first 10 verses of the Bhagavad chapter 18, Krishna was explaining. And Prabhupada also gave some nice purport over there. Sannyasi is said that in this age, people will intentionally come into a religious institution and take this highest order. They will perform austerity very carefully so that they could be recognized and given that title because they want to. There is a god brother of mine, blessed memory. When somebody took a sannyasi, he told me, he said to my hearing, he said, now, Prabhu, you have become a sannyasi now. So go and rule over them. No, he said, I think the devotee was about to go to take sannyasi. Then he said, Prabhu, now you have been approved to be a sannyasi, go and take your sannyasi and come back and rule them. So we have heard directly, not from somebody, someone took sannyasi and he said, so if I relinquish this or that, so how will I be maintained? How will I take care of myself? That's a sannyasi. But it's not surprising because it is natural. If Ravana could be like that in those days, he knows the principles of sannyasi, but so in Kali Yuga, it's not too unnatural to find such fake sannyasis, even in a spiritual organization. And not just that it's accidental. Some will take austerity to get that sannyasi because they know that by becoming a sannyasi, it becomes a tool. I was in India recently, and I was with one devotee. I invited me to take dinner and stay in his house for one night. And we were discussing. He said, Prabhu, because I wanted him to take me around the holy places. And when we got to some place, and he told me, he said, Prabhu, would you want to buy some properties? I said, what do you mean? I came to Holy Dam to get purified and see the holy places. He said, no, why are you talking like this, Prabhu? Are you not from the West? He said, even from the West, from Africa, so many sannyasi. He said, come, near the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, this place, he told me the numbers of hectares of land that was there. I said, but first, the foreigner cannot buy land in India. He said, no, they have a way of doing it. He said, look at that property there. It belongs to so sannyasi. That property there, it belongs to so sannyasi. And they are not sannyasis of other tradition. They are sannyasis of our ISKCON. But we know what the scripture says. Should the sannyasi have his own property? No. But they have it. And if you ask, they say, well, some would say it's for my preaching endeavor. So we said, okay. But I'm still wondering, maybe I've not read enough. I don't think I have seen anywhere Prabhupada having any property bought in his personal name. Maybe somebody will need to educate me, but I never see Prabhupada do that. But there are so many, and he was pointing to me, and these are very big sannyasis in our movement. I was shocked. And he said, yes, Prabhu, this is reality. I partake in arranging those properties for them. So it's not surprising, Prabhu. In Kali Yuga, these are going to naturally happen. And that does not diminish the fact that they are in devotional service. That is the most interesting thing. They are in devotional service, but the level of their devotional service may not be transcendental, but they will get some reward because they have actually come to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. That is the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that in this age of Kali, whatever they have, even if they are Ravana, if they are Irakasifu, let them come. At least let them chant the holy name. They will get some purification. In their next birth, they may have to take birth again and again. But the guarantee is there that they are growing, they are advancing in the course of devotional life. So before, things like that would irritate me so badly. But recently, I don't. Why? Because I started realizing that this devotee is trying. But that is just the level of his faith. His faith is, the strength of his faith is that, yes, I have faith in Krishna, but I must take care of myself. And that is the level of his faith, and you cannot question it. And Krishna is appreciating that soul, like Prabhu Farah said. Desire of wealth, desire of this distress, they come to Krishna, and Krishna. But then in the text number, the next verse that follows that, Krishna says, but he is magnanimous, that devotee who simply come for me.
Thank you so much for the beautiful explanation. So the word is we're almost time. If anyone has something to say, please, you may do so before we bring this to a close.
I think Govinda Prabhu wants to.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Shri Govinda Prabhu. Please, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Dandavar Pranams, Salika Prabhu, for your Gurudev, for your Srila Prabhupada, and thank you for your. Oh, glory to you, and thank you for your wonderful presentation. I'm just wondering about the question of this sannyasi. You know, the scripture advised that one should take initiation from a bona fide spiritual master. And you just emphasize on the qualities of such a bona fide spiritual master. And so there are rules and regulations that makes one bona fide or that makes one potent. The rules are there, and if one follows the rule, then he becomes powerful. And powerful means to have more access to Krishna or to have a direct connection with the system that the energy can flow through. So if a sannyasi or a guru is not acting the way it is being emphasized in the scriptures by the Lord, then I don't see where he's going to get that his potency, his power or purity to be able to liberate anybody or to take his disciples back to Godhead. So where is the faith of those who have taken shelter under such gurus who are trying to do their own thing, but not to act according to the rules and regulations by the scriptures?
If you're asking about their faith.
Yes, the faith of those who have taken shelter and are those sannyasis or the gurus who are not acting according to the rules and regulations of the scriptures.
Thank you very much for a beautiful question, Prabhu. That's a very intelligent, beautiful one. No one gets a particular guru without deserving it. The beauty is that Krishna doesn't make mistakes. I quoted a verse earlier on. Krishna says, I dwelling in their heart will destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the ignorance that is born out of darkness. The requirement is that one must accept the bona fide spiritual master. And one will not get any particular spiritual master that is not qualified to get. So it is both ways. One gets only those spiritual master that he is qualified for, according to his level of readiness. One might say, but that person is innocent. He doesn't know that that guru is not. He sincerely wants to get a genuine guru. Yeah. That sincerity only can be measured by Krishna, which is said in the verse prior to that, verse 11 of the chapter. I'm quoting the chapter speaking verses of the Bhagavad Gita. 10:10. Tesham Saktakta Yuktanam. Because Krishna is seeing in the heart. He knows what this person deserves. So someone is genuinely, sincerely wanting a bona fide guru, but he has certain karma or consciousness to go through based on his previous life and present life. Krishna will guide him towards that which is required of him, that is required for him or her. So it is not accidental that somebody accepts a spiritual master that is not bona fide. Krishna gives according to the requirement or to what is required for a particular soul. So it is not solely the fault of the guru or the spiritual master or the sannyasi that is not bona fide or that is not prima bhakta. It is largely dependent on the seeker. If the seeker is potent, is genuine, and I'll give you an example of my Guru Dev. Maharaj. He told us a story about his spiritual journey. He was seeking Krishna. He never knew who is Krishna, but he was sincerely seeking Krishna. And he told us his story. He was going from one guru to another guru, from one guru to another guru. And the moment he got to that level of readiness, he met a guru who was telling him, I'm now preparing you. You are going to go to your guru who is going to take you back. And eventually, when he go to him, I said, I found that person. I found someone. And he mentioned, he said, now you have got the right guru. So Krishna would guide. It doesn't make mistakes. So if someone needs sincerely wants a bona fide guru and is not directed to a bona fide guru, it means that there are certain lessons, there are certain things that that person needs to get through before it gets to the bona fide guru. Because to get the bona fide guru it's not a cheap article. It's not a cheap achievement in the journey of the soul, going back to God. So if the person is sincere, genuinely sincere, and he actually wants to go back home, but he has still some anarthas to deal with, or some certain things to do, Krishna will send him accordingly to what is required. And that was why in the course of the lecture, I quoted that song, Yasya Prasada Bhagavad Prasadi, Yasya Prasada Matikutopi. And Gurudev, in one of his lectures, in several lectures, he said, let us all check the time when we came into Krishna consciousness. We realize that these are the times that we are internally having a strong conversation with our mind, wanting to get knowledge of Krishna. And to that degree of our intensity of wanting Krishna, to know him, to that degree, Krishna brings us to this level of Krishna consciousness. So all of these are, and that is why it said that a pure devotee never see wrongs in anything, because he knows that Krishna is perfect and everything, as he has, as the invocation of, as Palisha said, Om Punam Ada Punam 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 Uda Asyate, Punam Punam Ada Punam Iba Asyate. Everything is perfectly made by Krishna because he's a perfect person, and everything that is emanating from him. And therefore, like Prabhupada said in Purport, there's nothing emanating from nowhere. Everything is emanating from Krishna. And nothing, imperfection can come from Krishna. So if someone wrongly or for any reason find himself under the shelter of a guru that is not bona fide, or is not a Madhyama Bhakta, or is not a Prema Bhakta, it is what he deserves that Krishna gives him. And when such a person transcend that particular stage, you get opportunity to get, depending on his development. That's my realization.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prabhu. So the question, then the next question will be, the guru may not be bona fide, but if the disciple is bona fide, if the disciple is serious and is following all the rules and regulations given in the scriptures or given by the guru may not be following, but the disciple may follow everything in total. So what happened to that disciple? Can he go back to Godhead, and can he carry his guru back to Godhead because the guru has helped him to reach that stage?
Very beautiful question, Prabhu. Very beautiful. Prabhu, that verse I'm quoting, go to Bhagavad Gita chapter 10, verse 10, the purport. Prabhupada said this. Prabhupada answered this directly there in the purport. Those two, that's why they are called Chatusloki verses. Everything is inside those 4 verses of the Bhagavad Gita.
10:10.
10:10, yes, purport. Prabhupada beautifully answered that question. Thank you very much, Sadi. Okay, now let's go. Yeah, continue going.
Yeah.
Continue going. It's towards the. No, not that one. Yes.
Okay, here.
Yes, go. Yes, this is it. A person may have a bona fide spiritual master and may be attached to spiritual organization, but if he's still not intelligent enough to make progress, then Krishna from within gives him instructions so that he may ultimately come to him without difficulty. In another lecture, Prabhupada, he elaborated on this point. So one may have a bogus or a canister guru, but if he's sincere, if we go down that same purpose, if you go to the question is that a person engages himself in Krishna consciousness with love and devotion, render all services. He should perform some sort of work for Krishna. And if a devotee is not intelligent enough, that's the last sentence. If a devotee is not intelligent enough, a devotee is not intelligent enough to make progress on the path of self-realization, but he is sincere and devoted to the activities of devotion and service, the Lord gives him a chance to make progress and ultimately attain to him. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers your question. Prabhupada has given everything.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
Thank
if
you.
it's sincere, if that sincerity is there,
Yeah.
let the guru be Kanishta or Madhyama. Those who say that because you have a Kanishta guru, you cannot go back to God. No, it's dependent on your sincerity. That sincerity will take you. The moment that sincerity matures to you, Krishna will create the avenue. He will make it happen. And that is why the next verse to that, which I quoted with this, there's 11 of that, emphasizes that he is within, he will destroy the darkness of ignorance with the shining lamp of knowledge.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu, for this explanation. You know, this will actually keep the faith of those gurus, I mean, the disciples whose gurus have purchased lands here and there. You know, if they listen to this lecture, then they may be discouraged and they will say, maybe let me find another guru somewhere.
No, they don't need
so this will give some faith. Yeah, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We are all going back to Godhead.
Yes, we are all aboard the ship going back home, back to Godhead. It's a ship, so there will be turbulent sometimes. Yeah. But as long as we all have to come to a stage whereby we start appreciating everyone in Krishna consciousness, even that guru, even that sannyasi, even that temple president, even that temple commander who is not right. If we start learning how to appreciate, Prabhu was saying something like that when he was giving his comment. When we learn to develop the attitude of gratitude, we realize how everything is perfect in Krishna's arrangement. Even those persons who are not qualified, they are there not by chance. They are there for a purpose. And then it does not. And that is why what Sukadeva Goswami said. There is no impediment, no interruption on bhakti, nothing. In the lecture in 1996 in Lagos Temple, there was a scene that happened. Oh no, 1998, sorry. Was it 1998 or 96? 1998. Gurudev came, there was some scenario that happened, and Gurudev was very heavy. And that was when he says that, maybe that lecture, I don't know whether it's online. He said, your guru may cheat you. Your temple president may cheat you. Your god brother may cheat you. The movement may cheat you. He said, but Krishna will never cheat you. When I heard that statement, I will never forget to the end of this body. All my misconception and anger dissipated immediately when I heard that from him. Because sometimes Guru will say, okay, your Guru cannot cheat you. He said, your Guru can cheat you. Your organization can cheat you. Even ISKCON can cheat you. It's an institution run by individuals. But it's a perfect boat offered by Krishna. Krishna will never cheat you. And those persons that we think are not bona fide are also there for a purpose. Because every purpose has to be fulfilled. So we start appreciating them.
You say, Prabhu, I thought we are ending there, but where you are going, you know, we can actually go deeper into these matters. You know, one can just read Srila Prabhupada books and chant Hare Krishna mantra and say, I don't need the, you know, it's shiksha. I'm taking the instructions. I'm chanting, I'm following the 4 rules and regulations. I don't need a guru, and I'll go back to Godhead. Is that the case?
No,
we definitely need a bona fide spiritual master. Gurudev always says that We need a residence of the spiritual world to give us invitation to the spiritual world.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we cannot go there.
Yeah.
And so, yes, Krishna will help within. From within means that Krishna will make arrangement for you to get another bona fide spiritual master who will connect you. But it's not by your own endeavor. It's not by your practices that will take you there. You understand?
Exactly.
Yeah. So if Krishna says, I will instruct you from within, does not mean that one practices alone without a guru will take him back to God. You definitely need someone from who is a resident in the spiritual world to give you that invitation. Otherwise, you cannot go.
Absolutely. When Krishna instructs, Krishna doesn't instruct whimsically from within because he is Krishna. Because himself says, you need a guru. Even himself took a guru when he appeared on this earth. So you will get a guru. So Krishna will not instruct you and say, come to me directly. No, Krishna will give you a guru. When Narada Muni, when he saw Krishna in his first seeing Krishna, he said, now this time you're not going with me. You go back. You go and practice. Go and take shelter of a guru. And after the next, you will come back to me. So the guru is unavoidable. It's not it's not an optional requirement in devotional life. Definitely, we need a guru.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I mean, we've spent so much time, but and I didn't want to prolong the class, but I just want to say something. I see Dr. Hassan has something to say, but I'm going to try to withhold name calling. But I remember when we first came to US here, His Grace Shrivas Banachari was told by somebody else that, you know, you need a Vaikuntha person to invite you back to Vaikuntha. Sri Prabhupada is a Vaikuntha man, so he can invite us back to Vaikuntha. But now he's gone. He's physically no more here. So that is why this person is claiming that he is moving on to another Vaikuntha person who happens not to be within ISKCON. So, of course, this person probably forgot whom he was speaking to. So His Grace Srivas Banachari said, I do not dispute that fact. Sri Prabhupada is gone, so you believe there is no Vaikuntha person left in ISKCON. So you are going to someone else whom you know or believe or think that is a Vaikuntha man. It's okay. What happens when that person also leaves his body? And these are same people who say that only Sri Prabhupada should be initiating guru. It turns out these sadhakas have now also assumed the position of being initiating gurus. I mean, what can be more cheating than that? And well, I haven't encountered such people on such topics. And I will try my little best to prove to them how jealous, envious they are of ISKCON. My understanding, which I believe is scriptural, is that as long as we are all in ISKCON, Sri Prabhupada is the primary spiritual master. And whoever is an initiating guru, even though the disciples are his disciples, just like our Guru Dev told us, he is offering us to Sri Prabhupada. So we belong to Sri Prabhupada. And so just like we read, if even the initiating spiritual master of today is not competent to go back home, back to Godhead, as long as he's playing that role in his utmost sincerity, and the disciple is following what Srila Prabhupada has given us, that person can go back home, back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada himself has given us that assurance that whoever in ISKCON chants minimum of 16 rounds, follow the 4 regulative principles, try to live as Vaishnav as possible. The rest is his. He is going to make sure that the necessary thing is done. So my humble appeal to the devotees is that we should never get swayed by any nonsensical talk that only Vaikuntha man can take us back. Somebody is not a Vaikuntha man, so you cannot go back home. It's nonsense. I speak this with much authority from what Srila Prabhupada is saying. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much.
I don't know. I don't want to cut somebody's question off. Dr. Hassan, is what you wanted to say? Do you still want to speak something, or it's okay?
Yes. Hare Krishna, Your Grace.
Hare
Please
Krishna.
ascend to my humble respect of essences. All glory to Gurudev, all glory to Srila Prabhupada, and all glory to Assembly devotees. His Grace SALIKA PRABHU, thank you for this wonderful class. And His Grace Shri Govinda, thank you for the question you asked, because especially somebody like me, if I hear I get information like this, I become a bit confused, and I begin to ask myself some questions. What I want to ask is that, for instance, if you have a spiritual master, and for instance, he has a property in Mayapur, which is the place of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I think as a devotee, you don't have to worry too much about that. I'm saying this because if the spiritual master is doing everything he has to do as a spiritual master, and he happened to have a property who is from the West, and this property is not in the West, but it's in the land of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, maybe he has a lot of devotees which he has to take them to the Holy Land, and they have accommodation problem. So he may say, okay, let me have this property so that my devotees can stay there. So if we look too much into this, maybe we can judge them wrongly, or because we don't know the intention of him doing what he is doing. And for instance, somebody like me, how is it possible for me to ask my spiritual master, why did you have this property? I'm not qualified to. Yeah, I'm not qualified to ask him that. I don't know if I'm making the right comments. So if we're beginning to find something like that offenses of the spiritual master, then we become deviated, or we're beginning to think that they are making offenses, so we don't have to follow them. So His Grace, Sri Govinda, thank you for that wonderful question, because it clearly answered my question and gave me clarity. Hare Krishna, this is what I wanted to say. Hare Krishna, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the exam. Do not be worried. Krishna is perfectly looking at every perfect situation for all perfect desires, for guiding every soul to himself. Like I said, in the past, I also get infuriated and I condemn. But as we grow in devotions, we realize that everything is working. The fact is that it is wrong, according to the scripture, that the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada didn't lay that kind of a foundation. Srila Prabhupada could, as he's expanding the movement, and there are so many needs for facilities across the globe, Srila Prabhupada will have start buying properties in every part of the world with the monies realized and put it in the name of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. But he never did that, put them in ISKCON name. So what is expected based on the foundation that Prabhupada laid is that such a guru, according to what example Srila Prabhupada laid down, and we're following the footsteps of the Parampara, is supposed to do is to expand the scope of the facility, but in the name of Krishna consciousness. But if somebody says, I want to do it for my own personal name, it is questionable because we not see that example in Prabhupada. My Guru Maharaj, when he came to the West Africa, there are so many properties. There are properties that were dashed to him. One of the biggest properties we have locally here in Nigeria is a 65 hectares of property land. That property was dashed to him as appreciation for his preaching activities. And he got that property registered in the name of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He could have registered the land in his personal name. So it was given to him. And there are so many other facilities like that. At least in my local environment, I have seen, not the one somebody is telling. While as we're growing in devotional service, there are so many properties that were dashed to him, but he never registered those properties in his personal name. That is my Guru Maharaj. And from the example of Srila Prabhupada, I'd never see anywhere that Prabhupada bought properties in his personal name. And so that is what standard Prabhupada has set down. But if somebody buys also, I also don't want to criticize or condemn anybody. But the point we are making here, the aspect we're saying here is that this is not the standard of a sannyasi life, but that does not impede our growth or our success in devotional service. We should not take that as an impediment in our growth in the world, because whether that person is right or wrong, because Srila Prabhupada's movement is bona fide, ISKCON is bona fide, this line of disciple association is bona fide. If one sincerely follow, that is what Prabhupada advised, one will get to the destination of going back and back to Godhead, if he is sincere.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Salika. Thank you so much, Salika Prabhu. Thank you for insisting on the standards. Anytime anybody tries to speak and stand for the truth, you're going to step on others' toes.
Sure.
And if you are not prepared to step on others' toes, then don't speak the truth. And if one does not speak the truth, not just speaking the truth, but live the truth, then how do we become happy? Only truth can lead us to happiness. So the truth is what His Grace Salika Prabhu is saying, because the title sannyasi means you are socially dead. If you're socially dead, how do you acquire properties? And so a sannyasi can acquire properties, but it is never in his name. It is in the name of the organization. Like Salika Prabhu was saying, His Holiness Bhaktivinoda Swami Maharaj, he acquired 210 acres of land in Ghana, which was kind of isolated. There were not many ISKCON devotees coming there. He was there just by himself, struggling. And he never registered it as Bhaktivinoda Swami Maharaj's property. It's in the name of ISKCON. Now we become kind of nonchalant, and we're not even taking much attention to that particular land. And many other things. There was nothing Gurudev did in his personal name. It was all in the name of ISKCON. So if a sannyasi is making something in his name, that is not the standard Srila Prabhupada gave us. Except the person is not in ISKCON. But if the person is in ISKCON, it should be under the name of ISKCON. So that is where we're going to end at today. And we thank you all for your love and participation in Srimad Bhagavatam discourses, and His Grace Salika Prabhu, we can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for the wonderful lectures and contributions, questions from all the devotees. Hare Krishna. So at this point, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation to the speaker. Jai. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Bhagavatam Kripasindhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
His Grace Salika Prabhu ki.
Yes.
Jai.